I'll just say it 3 times in a row, then you won't believe how far I'll go. I'm on the bench, but coach, just put me in the game. All you gotta do is say my name. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's fine episode, hopefully fine, of StillerBros at the Movies, where today we are going to see the sequel to one of the best movies DC has made since 2008. That's right, Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Cocaine Bear, fuck! Okay, but we are very excited to see this movie because we have the return of David F. Sandberg, who we have deep dived into since seeing the first Shazam movie, and he's kind of fucking awesome in a lot of different ways. Well, for one thing, he's a YouTuber who is, well, not really a YouTuber, but he has a very active YouTube presence as a filmmaker. Especially with the fact that he talks about making of, and during the pandemic especially, he came back to YouTube and made some short films, which are actually really good. And of course, there's the fact that once again, this is the sequel to Shazam, which was a fantastic Spielbergian version of a superhero epic, which was very fun, very lovable, and all anchored by a fantastic performance by Zachary Levi, who has done nothing wrong. He might be an anti-vaxxer. I'm very uncomfortable with the fact that every fucking time we have a superhero movie, we have to talk about anti-vaxxers. So let's just say right now that from what we know about Zachary Levi's comments lately, he may or may not be an anti-vaxxer, and leave it at that, and hopefully next time we talk about a superhero movie, we don't have to talk about fucking vaccines. Chris Pratt, please shut the fuck up. We don't need to know if you're anti-vax or not, even though you're definitely vaccinated because you're in a Marvel movie. But anyway, yeah, we'll just go through our usual thing of vaccines are safe and actually work. If Zachary Levi is anti-vax, that sucks. We're going to try to judge this in its own merit, particularly because fair is fair. Zachary Levi was probably the best part of the first movie. Yes. And then also with this movie, we have the returns of Asher Angel, Jack Dylan Grazer, Jimon Hansu, Mark Strong, among others. But joining the cast, we have got the likes of Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu as our villains, and Rachel Ziegler, who most recently made her breakout hit in West Side Story for Steven Spielberg, and has kind of been on and ever since then has been on a career upswing, also doing Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and having other projects in the works after that. Well, it's just Snow White right now. It's just Snow White next after that. I don't remember what else she has going on, but I know she has some other big high-profile stuff in the works. But Shazam 2, through every trailer we've seen, has seemed to be very much a bigger version of the first Shazam, where it just seems just wacky and stupid and epic and crazy enough that it feels like the first Shazam, but they pumped it up the volume a little bit more. And this is also kind of the beginning of the end for this chapter of the DCEU, because at the end of this year, we will be seeing DC take a much different approach to their movies with not as new as it was a few months ago, but the freshly announced new co-heads of DC Studios, Peter Safran and James Gunn. Peter Safran, of course, was already a producer on this movie before they officially announced that him and James Gunn were co-running all of DC's studios. But of course, that just means that he's been in charge of it for it's been in the works for a little while for him to at least be co-running the studio. Yes, but obviously there has been a lot of backlash and a lot of other stuff that we're not going to get into, because that's not what this kind of show is. That's not the kind of show this is about, the fact that they are running the show, and essentially a lot of people are coming to the conclusion that they're burying the DCEU so far, even though they have never once said that, other than the fact that
sadly Henry Cavill won't be returning.
And not so sadly, Ben Affleck will not be returning. Not that we hated him in the role, but he hated him in the role.
As we said before, Ben Affleck seems way happier now than he ever was when he was Batman.
So, good on you, Ben. We're sorry that Snyder Stans won't leave you alone about wanting to go back to this role that made you so miserable.
But we do have little tidbits that maybe this movie will not be affected. This movie and any for upcoming movies won't be fully affected, but we don't know for sure.
James Gunn seemed to indicate that because the Shazam movies so barely touch on what is going on in the broader DC universe, that they might actually just go untouched for the most part. So I think that we might, in the long run, the Shazam movies are pretty safe from not getting completely decimated when the Flash decides to go back in time and turn everything around.
Yeah, there's also the fact that we do have Aquaman and Blue Beetle, which we haven't really seen or heard any real information about. But based on the fact that, again, these were mentioned during the lineup announcements a couple months ago, that there probably is going to be something going on to try to make this all work together. However, really excited for the next Superman movie just because it's a fucking James Gunn joint now, so I have to see it.
But yeah, Shazam 2 seems like it's just going to be like Shazam 1, only bigger and more epic. And of course, they make a Fast and Furious joke with Helen Mirren here while he's staring at Helen Mirren, who has been in the last 3 Fast and Furious movies. So,
going to be and is also going to be in the next one.
So, that's fun. But it seems like David F. Sandberg is really letting it loose on this one, because there's more monsters, there's more mysticism, there's more comic book insanity to this one.
And it's really awesome to see what he will do with with probably a bigger budget and bigger scope than he's ever had before. Obviously, he's going back to his horror. He's already stated he's going back to his horror roots with his next film, but he's just seems like an awesome guy who this is much success he really deserves.
But of course, we haven't seen it yet. The critics on this one are a little mixed more than the last one, because when we first started seeing the Rotten Tomatoes come out, it was at 70%. Now it's at 55%.
Yeah.
Granted, there's a lot of movies we actually like that are at 50% or
even lower than that.
But then again, Rotten Tomatoes scores don't mean that that's what people scored the movie. That just means that that's the number of critics that scored the movie at a certain point. Whether or not this movie is good, I think we're going to end up enjoying at least parts of it if they manage to stick the landing with remembering exactly what made the first movie work so much the first time, and that was the goofy charm, the lovable family dynamic, and Zachary Levi's performance as this eternal child.
And hopefully we can at least get an idea. Maybe it will give us an idea of what the tone for upcoming DC movies is going to be.
Because the last Shazam was a comedy, and but that meant it veered off from all the other superhero movies that DC had been making, because Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, all that other stuff kind of was so serious about it. But Shazam was like, no, it's a movie about a bunch of kids discovering that they have superpowers. Of course, we're going to do comedic stuff about what kids would do if they discovered they had superpowers.
Just imagine what it would have been like if the Snyder Stans had come out, got what they wanted, and made a dark, gritty version of Shazam. It probably would not have been good.
Yep. It probably would have been exactly what the trailer seems to imply it was before it decided to say, no, we're joking.
Yeah, especially when you take into effect that David F. Sandberg hadn't, at the time they announced his Shazam, the first Shazam, David F. Sandberg had not directed a film yet.
Yeah, so, that's about all we got. Hopefully, Shazam 2, hopefully it's good. Hopefully we enjoy it. Hopefully it's as good as the first one, but we're hoping to keep our expectations just a nice happy medium.
Yeah.
But till then, we will see you guys after the chat. Okay, give us a second to
Just a sec.
recover from the cold.
Okay, so we are out, and that was actually pretty fun.
Yeah, I don't think it's as good of a movie as the first one, mostly because the first one had a bit more of an episodic feel, minus the part where the villain actually started to come into effect. But this one was a lot less funnier too. Not because it wasn't trying, just because I don't know. Comedy's subjective, and it had some good funny jokes, but it wasn't as funny as the first one. But there's a lot to like, and I can understand why people would find this a little disappointing. I, on the other hand, I'm just glad we can explore this world a little bit further.
So let's get into it a little bit, guys. So for starters, they kind of do what you kind of expect them to do after the ending of the last one, and this one's a little bit more of an ensemble piece.
Granted, the filmmakers also knew that in a movie called Shazam, they kind of need to focus on the character named Shazam. So they do figure out a way to make it so that despite the fact that they set up this as a somewhat ensemble piece, they actually do find a way to make it so that it's like, okay, Billy has to stand alone at this point, so we're going to need to figure out a way to make to have the other characters kind of be out of the action but not completely removed.
Yeah. Although another thing is that Asher Angel is taking more of a backseat this time around for whatever reason.
In fact, most of the child actors are taking backseat heats this time. Which, speaking of the child actors, can time stop? Like, seriously, feels like just yesterday we were seeing these like real little kids, and now suddenly they first show up in this movie, and it's like they're like almost adults.
No, well, yes, we did turn 32 weeks ago. What made you guess?
Yeah, it's just
it's a little concerning that 4 years. You don't realize 4 years has gone by, even though at least one of those 4 years it felt like an eternity.
But it's been a bit of yeah, that was a bit of a wake-up call. But other than that, the kids are great when they are actually in the movie, which is still fun. It's still nice that they found these great child actors who actually can act, and you actually do want to spend time with for the time that we have them. And of course, because of the fact that we're playing with these characters post the first movie, we do actually get to see their superhero alter egos get played out in ways that we never got to see in the first movie. So we can actually see just how well it's matched to their child actors that the adults playing the superheroes actually are.
Yes.
Outside of the third act stuff that we got in the first one.
Yes. Lucy Liu, Helen Mirren, and Rachel Zegler, all the newcomers, do a pretty good job in establishing themselves in their roles. With Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu obviously taking on a more villainous role, and Rachel Zegler, well, we're not going to talk about much in depth of her character because
her character didn't get a lot of focus in the trailer, so we're going to assume that most of the stuff with her is a spoiler. So we're just going to kind of be like, okay, Rachel Zegler, she was great in West Side Story, she's good in this, so we'll give it to her there and be done with it. Her chemistry, especially her chemistry with
Jack Dylan Grazer.
There it is.
Who she spends a majority of the movie with Jack Dylan Grazer's character. Speaking of which, him and Jimon Hansu also spend a lot of time together in this movie, so
they end up essentially being the comedic double act of this movie, who be in a side plot of their own, while everybody else just kind of figures out what to do in the next steps.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that kind of makes this one a little lesser than the first movie is the fact that the first movie did focus a lot on the fact that these were just a bunch of kids in Philadelphia, and now it's like we're focusing on this big Greek god-sized action story that they're fighting in.
it really doesn't feel. It really kind of misses the family connection that was really rooted in the heart of the first movie. It doesn't exactly have the same level of heart as the last one, where you got a lot of scenes with the family together and everything. Whereas here, there's just some stuff that happens. There is some stuff with the family, but some of it just kind of happens off camera.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, I also really like the fact that, like, when it comes to the heart, what heart it does have, I really like two things. One, the fact that Billy's arc is kind of the opposite of what it was in the first movie. In the first movie, he needed to learn to embrace this new family that he actually was given, and in the second one, he needs to learn to let go as he grows older. The character's about to turn 18. He's got to figure out what his next step is. And the other thing is that despite how little time we actually spend with the full family dynamic in a way that reminds us why we are supposed to still love these characters, when it's time for a big heart-melting scene, it actually does work to a degree.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't go full-on crying, but I did definitely feel a pull at my heartstrings when it came time for certain moments to appear in the movie.
Yeah. And the ending kind of comes out of nowhere and is a real Deus Ex Machina.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of set up, but it also kind of feels a little bit like they wanted to do this kind of ending, but then I don't know if it was a studio note or a weird, or just they wanted to take all the piss out of it, like they were parodying a certain ending and wanted to just kind of be like, but no, we're not doing that. But no, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna make that mistake. But yeah, it was kind of weird. It just felt like it came out of nowhere. It felt kind of tacked on.
Like they kind of wrote themselves into a corner and they needed to put it back, and they needed to fix everything in some way, so they just decided to do this.
It's not that it wasn't set up earlier in the movie. They did have something vaguely set up. It just kind of is a. It just kind of happens.
It just kind of happens, and it kind of takes the piss out of anything that this movie had.
Maybe if they had toyed with it a bit more. Maybe if they had toyed with it a bit more earlier in the movie, then it would have been. Then it probably wouldn't have felt so suddenly there.
It kind of kills the stakes of the entire third act once you get to the ending of it and you get to this point.
Even though when it's there, it's epic. We get all these Greek monsters fighting superheroes, and it's just this big, fun action sequence with.
Yeah, we get a really fun action sequence. We get some awesome stuff with unicorns.
And Lucy Liu on a dragon, and Zachary Levi punching dragons and everything like that.
And manticores and harpies and
cyclopses. It's everything we're going to be getting in the Percy Jackson series, but we should touch on that now because that only has the vaguest thing to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah, but yeah, it's still a lot of fun. David F. Sandberg is really showing himself as a very competent director of a lot of things. Again, maybe if the one weakness that this film has is just balancing out everything with the fact that it is more of an ensemble. Balancing out all the plot points, could have done it a little better.
And once again, Philadelphia feels kind of Philadelphia as a setting feels a little bit underutilized this time around as compared to last time, where it really felt like Philadelphia was just this unique place that they were setting the action in.
Yeah, which is sad for a very personal reason to us, but
we won't get deep into that. But there's also Christoph Beck decides to turn in a pretty epic score for the most part. There's no moments where he just suddenly decides, I'm going to throw in a little jingly comedy score here just to be fun, but or anything like that. It's mostly just let's get an epic action score here and there, and for the most part it works.
And also, spoilers, kinda, we have our first confirmed DC gay superhero. So by the rules of the internet, they went woke, so they gotta go broke. Sorry, Shazam 2.
But if you actually paid attention to the first movie, it's not that big a shock.
It's really not even that big a shock, even if you didn't pay attention to the first movie, because this movie
just kind of lays it out.
Yeah.
But but Shazam 2, it's fun. It's about as fun as the first one, but probably not as strong a movie. When ranking the movies in this sub-franchise of the DCEU, it's probably first one, second one, Black Adam.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens if they come around to getting a third one. Right now, obviously, everything's up in the air. The lineup we have does not include Shazam or any of the other movies we saw.
But according to James Gunn, the lineup he gave us is not even half of the stuff that they've got planned out so far. So I guess they're waiting to see how this one's box office does before they go announcing what they're doing with Shazam.
Yeah, but it's still a fun franchise that will be fun to revisit when we can get around to it, and hopefully we'll see these characters into this story and all of this world again. And just kind of as a side note, it was kind of awesome to see the Flash trailer on a big screen. Even if we have a lot to talk about with the Flash.
Oh, stuff has happened with the Flash.
We have a lot to talk about, but we'll talk about that when we get to it.
But for right now, once again, Shazam: Fury of the Gods is good enough. I wouldn't call it a disappointment, but I'd say I kind of wish it was a little bit better as a sequel to Shazam, which until the Suicide Squad was probably one of the best things the DCEU had going for it.
Yeah. But now, that's it for now. But that's it, guys. So, like this video, subscribe if you like it, leave a comment down below.
And don't forget to tune in next time when we do the video that I thought we were doing this time around, but apparently I rolled a 1 on perception. Bye.
Bye.